Hello everyone, welcome back to Nick the Reviewer. Today I will be reviewing Halo Infinite. Before I begin the review, if you want to see more content like this, then please leave a like and subscribe. Warning, this video will contain major spoilers. I will first start off with the story. After Halo 5, a lot of people were worried about how the story would continue after such a confusing, messy story. Somehow, 343 managed to continue the story and made it straightforward and easy to follow without too much exposition. Within the first 2 minutes of the game, you are fully aware of the stakes and the danger of the situation ahead of you. The game opens up with the Master Chief on the Infinity while humanity's greatest ship was under attack by the Banished. Master Chief is kicking ass as usual until Atriox arrives to face Master Chief. After a brutal fight, the Master Chief falls to Atriox. Then he gets thrown into space as he watches humanity's greatest creation fall to the Banished. It only took 4 minutes to take down the ship. As much as I hated seeing Master Chief get beaten up, I think it was the perfect start to the game. This scene alone puts the Master Chief vs. Locke fight to shame. It also immediately shows you how much of a threat the Banished and Atriox are. I also like this because it shows that even the most unstoppable force can be beaten. After 6 months, and the Master Chief being in survival mode, he is discovered by a pilot from the UNSC named Echo 216. Echo 216 was a pilot that was on the Infinity as it was under attack. He managed to escape just in time and has been beaten out in the depths of space trying to find a way home. Right after the Master Chief is found, a Banished ship finds the Pelican that they are on. Before being destroyed, the Master Chief boards the Banished ship and destroys it. While the Master Chief was on the ship, he learned of a new enemy within the Banished named Escharum. Escharum now leads the Banished after Atriox's alleged death. After escaping the ship that was about to be destroyed, Master Chief must continue his fight and find a weapon. After landing on Zeta Halo, the Master Chief finds the weapon in the depths of the Halo ring. The weapon he needs has no name except the weapon, and she was designed to capture and delete Cortana. For some reason though, the weapon was not able to delete Cortana because Cortana had already died. The weapon was meant to be deleted, but never was, and that remains a mystery for more than half of the game. After the weapon has been recovered, the Master Chief insists on continuing the fight in hopes to destroy the Banished once and for all. At first, Echo 216 is highly against this and just wants to go home, but the Master Chief gives him no other choice. Master Chief receives a distress signal from a Spartan named Hudson Griffin. This distress signal came with a set of coordinates that was set for an installation called the Tower. The Tower is a place that is used by the Banished to torture UNSC soldiers as well as Spartans. When first entering the Tower, Master Chief notices Griffin's armor in front of him and learns that his armor was ripped from him while he was still alive. After clearing the tower, Master Chief finds Griffin in a torture chamber, but before he can be released, Chaklock, interrogator of the Banished, had challenged the Master Chief to a fight in which the Master Chief inevitably won. After Chaklock's death, the Master Chief frees Spartan Griffin and gets information about the Banished digging site for a foreigner structure called the Conservatory, before unfortunately dying in Master Chief's arms. While in the Conservatory, Master Chief is met with Despondent Pyre, the AI caretaker of Zeta Halo. After warning the Master Chief about what's to come, the caretaker inevitably gets destroyed by a new fearsome enemy called the Harbinger. The Harbinger claims that her species, codenamed the Endless, survived the firing of the Halo rings, and then was captured and imprisoned by the Foreigners. The Harbinger started working with the Banished in order to rebuild the Silent Auditorium, a facility which would allow her to free the Endless once again. After destroying 3 AA guns, the Master Chief faces off against 2 Spartan killers, which inevitably fall to the Master Chief. Echo 216 finally has enough and comes clean with the Master Chief. He admits that he is just a volunteer that just happened to be on the Infinity when it was attacked. After learning about the Master Chief's defeat, he stole a Pelican and ran away. After being hard on himself and saying that he's worth nothing, the Master Chief steps in and gives him a pep talk. He admits his own failure with Cortana and that everybody is human and makes a mistake every once in a while. After this, Master Chief and the weapon disable a series of spires to stop the Halo's repair process. While disabling one of these spires, Master Chief creates a failsafe so that at any moment he can delete the weapon. While in the main spire, where the Halo's repair was activated, the Harbinger gets a hold of the weapon, and the Master Chief activates the failsafe to delete the weapon. After successfully fighting off the Harbinger, as well as overriding the failsafe, the weapon gets annoyed with the Master Chief, asking him why he would do such a thing. After successfully disabling the main spire, Echo 216 shows up to pick up Master Chief and the weapon. Before he can land, the Blade Master Yega Ardumnai disables the Pelican and kidnaps the pilot. The weapon manages to track the pilot and opens up a gateway to teleport them as close as possible to his location. After this, the weapon figures out that she's an exact 1-to-1 copy of Cortana. Realizing that she's an exact copy of an AI that has killed billions of people, the weapon decides to delete herself. The Master Chief manages to stop her from deleting herself and continues on with the mission. It is later found out that the pilot is being held at the House of Reckoning, the main headquarters of the Banished on Zeta Halo. After defeating Yega Ardumnai and then Escharum in a high-stakes battle, the pilot is finally free. After defeating Escharum and rescuing the pilot, the Master Chief goes to the Silent Auditorium to take out the Harbinger once and for all. While at the Silent Auditorium, both Master Chief and the weapon learn about the fate of Cortana. After destroying the homeworld of the Brutes, Cortana is contacted by what she assumes is the Master Chief, but instead it is Atriox. Atriox explains what happened and that he destroyed the Infinity as well as beat the Master Chief in only 4 minutes. After realizing what has happened, Cortana realizes that she is in the wrong and that she must make it right. Cortana then destroys herself in order to destroy part of the ring so the Brutes and the Endless fail. After learning this, the Master Chief faces off against the Harbinger. After beating the Harbinger and being told that the Endless are coming, the Master Chief is then suddenly trapped in the Silent Auditorium as it's collapsing around him. Right when Master Chief thinks that he can't get out, a portal opens up and he runs through it, and is transported to a different part of the ring. Not knowing where he is, the pilot comes to Master Chief's aid. We then learn the pilot's name is Fernando Esparza. Master Chief ends up asking the weapon what her name will be, and before she reveals her name, it cuts to the credits. The post-credit scene confirms that Atriox is still alive, and it shows him releasing the Endless. Now we're going to move on to the gameplay. The biggest change featured in Halo Infinite is the grapple shot, and I have to say it was the best decision they could have possibly made. This is the perfect thing to have, especially in an open world like this, with a lot of cliffs and long falls. To accompany this, there is no fall damage, which is really nice to have. I can't imagine how frustrated people would get using the grapple shot and then dying because they hit the ground after going high up in the air. I really like how they put a unique spin on the open world, just by adding a simple thing that we all thought would just be a gimmick. You can also upgrade the grapple hook, but I will talk more about that later. An aspect of this game I wish was more in depth is stealth. I feel like Halo Reach did the stealth thing really well, as well as ODST. I just feel like this open world with stealth could have been done way better. For instance, if you just kill one grunt while they're sleeping, all of them will jump up and start shooting at you, which offers no way for you to do stealthy things. I hope there are future DLCs and that they can add stealth mechanics, but that's just a wish for now. Don't get me wrong, the combat is still amazing in this game. I just feel like it would have been better and added more to the game if we just had the option to do stuff stealthily. Another thing that we got in this game that was really cool was random encounters. It livens up the world, and it doesn't make it feel like just bare land. With these random events, you can just be minding your own business traveling across the map, and you would come across a squad of enemies, and you'd have to take them out to get past them. I really like this idea because it makes it feel like the Banished really does have a strong foothold on the ring. You can't have an open world without vehicles, and this game does have plenty of vehicles. For me, my two personal favorite vehicles are the Ghosts and the Scorpions. Ghosts are really good in this game for traveling across the map at really high speeds. I really like using the tank because it's fun just blowing up enemies, and it's easier to get through certain objectives with the tank. I did drive a little bit with the Ravager, and I gotta say I'm not impressed with it. It is fast and kind of easy to drive, but when it comes to combat, it's horrible. You can't really shoot from any direction. I know Ghosts can't either, but it is much easier to control a Ghost than it is to control a Ravager. It's almost like with the Ravager, you have to take wide turns, but with the Ghost, you can just turn on the dime during combat. I would prefer to use a Ghost over a Ravager. I will admit one thing though, that the Ravager's guns are way better than Ghosts. You can have squads in this game. I noticed in other games the squads didn't really help, and they seemed to just be there just to be there. But in this game they seem to actually help you, which was a real surprise to me. This really helps when you're in a sticky situation and you have allies to back you up. This is a significant upgrade compared to Halo 5. If you've played Halo 5, you know how horrible your allies are with helping you, especially on Legendary. There are obviously skulls in this game, and they have all the normal effects that you would normally have. My favorite ones are Grunt Birthday and IWHBYD. What was weird about Halo 4 and 5 was the design choices for the Covenant. It was a major change from the original trilogy, and it did not sit well with many people. I didn't mind it so much, but it was nice to actually see the original designs in Halo Infinite. In Halo 1, 2, 3, and Reach, you were able to tell the differences between certain elite ranks. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but there are actually different ranks for these elites, as well as grunts and brutes. Depending on the color of your enemy, the harder the enemy will be. For instance, the orange grunts are the easiest to take out, whereas the white ones have shielding, which can be harder for you to take them out. Elites have a lot of specialties, and the easiest ones are blue. Next level is red, a different shade of blue, white, and then yellow. For me personally, the yellow ones and the white ones are the hardest ones to take out. In Halo 4 and 5, they weren't in those games, so it was hard to differentiate the enemy types. I'm really happy that they were able to incorporate the older style and yet still make this game look new. I really hope they stick with these designs in the future, because it's really nice to see the old style back. I really like the different ways you can attack enemies. You can either go in guns blazing or kill from afar. I really enjoyed killing them from far away with a sniper rifle because it was just cool seeing how the enemies acted when they couldn't find you. This is also a really good strategy if you're playing on harder difficulties, because sometimes these enemies can be very difficult to kill, so killing them from far away with the sniper rifle might be better. Let's move on to the content. Let's start off with the fobs. One of the new additions to Halo are the fobs. The best way I can describe fobs is that they are basically checkpoints within the world of Halo Infinite. Before you can gain access to these fobs, you need to take out the surrounding enemies and unlock the fob via control panel. After you do this, you will have access to a lot of things including weapons, vehicles, as well as marines. Fobs are also really good for getting around the world in a fast way because you can fast travel to these fobs. Another feature of Halo Infinite are audio logs. These audio logs give you more information about certain locations held by the Banished. As well, it gives you more background story behind the Marines that were stuck behind the enemy lines, as well as the Spartans that were there to execute Escharum. I really like these audio logs because it gives you a perspective from the Marines as well as different Spartans and tells you the story of what they had to go through to survive. They also have audio logs from the Banished as well. I really like that they included audio logs from the Banished because it gives you the perspective of the enemy. Speaking of audio logs, there are these things called propaganda towers. Propaganda towers are scattered all around the map, and they give you extra valor when destroyed. The fun thing with these propaganda towers is that there is one grunt behind all of them. He says many funny things, and he actually sometimes breaks the fourth wall, which is really funny. I really like that in this game, that they fully embrace the comedy with the grunts.
Attention humans, I was just going back through some dog tags plucked off your dead comrades, and I gotta say, human names are just the dumbest sounding names in the galaxy. Easterling, McDonough, Lindy, Crocker, where'd you come up with that stupid crap? Go back in time and tell your parents to try harder.
Another thing that was added to Halo Infinite are targets. These targets are high priority within the UNSC, and it is Master Chief's job to find and kill them. Every single target is unique. They will have their own unique weapon and set of skills. After you kill these targets, you get their special weapon that you can use anytime, which is really cool. Surprisingly, there is more to these targets than you think. These targets have names, they have origins, and it even tells you why they are so wanted and what to watch out for. I really like how they give you lore on each enemy that you face. It just makes the world feel more alive, and it actually makes you feel like you're making a difference within the game. There are these places called installations all over the map where Banished forces control a certain area. Some of these areas are enemy vehicle installations, as well as POW camps. In the vehicle installations, there are these energy silos that you must destroy, and the easiest way to destroy them is with a grenade or rocket launcher. After you take out these silos, you then must go into the main building and take out the control panels. In the POW camps, there are usually 3 sets of squad members that are in there, and you must free the squad leader in order to successfully take out the installation. In this game, you can get armor unlocks as well, which is really cool. So everywhere on the map there are these armor unlocks you can get, but they are only cosmetics. These cosmetics are used for your armor or vehicles, and weapons skins in multiplayer. I really wish that we got more than just cosmetics, and instead get actual pieces of armor and stuff. I would have also really liked to see our weapon skins work in single player. I hope in a future DLC that we could get more of these armor unlocks, but instead they would actually be pieces of armor instead of just colors. Don't get me wrong, some of the colors are really cool, but I feel like we should have gotten more out of the armor unlocks. Speaking of armor, you can upgrade your armor and your equipment in this game. In order to upgrade your equipment, you need to find these things called Spartan cores. Without these Spartan cores, you will not be able to upgrade your armor or your equipment. You can upgrade your threat sensor, drop shield, thrusters, grapple shot, as well as your shields. I personally use the grapple shot a lot more than anything else, just because it's more convenient to me. I did try the other pieces of equipment like the threat sensor for instance, which really helps when you're fighting against camouflaged elites. Drop shields seem to be more handy against lighter infantry, like jackals and grunts. The thrusters really help in those situations where you're stuck and surrounded by enemies like hunters, brutes, and elites. The grapple shot, once upgraded, can electrocute your enemies, and if you hold down the melee button as you're grappling enemies, you can actually ground pound them, which can remove their armor as well as stun enemies in surrounding areas. There are also legendary weapons in this game that you can get from bosses as well as targets. You can get special weapons from Yege Ardumnai as well as Escharum. I especially like Escharum's weapon because it's a red-bladed gravity hammer, which is really powerful. I also like Yege's energy sword because it's red and it's really cool. Usually in Halo games you will find a lot of Easter eggs. This is true for this game as well. The Easter eggs in this game are actually pretty cool. For instance, you have the Halo music when you reach the top of the Infinity. You can also find an arcade game with some original music in 8-bit style. I also managed to find a big sandwich surrounded by a bunch of grunts treating it like a messiah. The last one I will show you is the original Xbox, which I also found really cool to find. There are many more Easter eggs to find, but I just showed you the ones that I found that were the coolest ones. Other Easter eggs you can find are plushies that reference older characters. Now on to my opinions about the game. I overall really liked this story. It went back to the basics, and it felt a lot like the original trilogy. It was mysterious and had a lot of emotional moments within this game. I really like how they showed more of Master Chief's human and emotional side.
I'm worthless. You should leave me here with the rest of the garbage.
We all fail. We all make mistakes. It's what makes us human.
I'm sorry, Chief, but how have you ever failed?
I should have protected Cortana. Stopped everything from going wrong. I failed her. I will not fail you.
Chief. Wait. We're going to make it. We have to.
This is all I've got.
It's all we need. Our only way home is straight through the heart of the Banished.
We need you.
We can fix this.
There is a perfect balance of Master Chief talking and not talking. In Halo 4, Master Chief talked quite a lot, which was really weird because we were so used to him barely talking, but in this game, they have the perfect balance of him talking and not talking. I really liked the mystery of this game. It felt a lot like Combat Evolved. We were given so many questions at the beginning that it made you want to continue the story to find out what would happen. For instance, one of the things was that they said Atriox was dead. Now the first question on my mind was, how did he die? When did he die? And who killed him? I will admit I was scared that they just killed him off screen, but I'm very glad to say that no, he is not dead and he is still very alive. The one thing that I would like to see in a future DLC or in a future game is how he survived that explosion, because I feel like there could be a really interesting story behind that. There is also the mystery of what happened to Cortana and why the weapon was created. They handled the story of Cortana very well in this game and made it so that it wasn't confusing at all. They still managed to incorporate the Halo 5 story while making it cohesive at the same time. It was nice to see Cortana again, but this needs to be the final time we see her. Her death was pretty well done in Halo 4, and having her back in this game was nice, and to finally close the book on her story.
They'll pair you with another AI. Maybe even another Cortana model if Halsey lets them. It won't be me. But you know that, right? But that doesn't matter. It's just another Echo. She's right, John. Just another Echo. Sorry, I'm messing with you. I just had a feeling that's what she would say. Do you see what I see? So much potential. I'm sorry. I didn't have long to plan this. A few milliseconds, really. I hope it worked out. Look at us. We just keep saying goodbye, don't we? But this isn't an end. It's a chance to make amends, to rectify mistakes. And it starts here. I was wrong. I thought that I could do this on my own. But I forgot that the whole point of all of this, the entire reason that I chose you in the first place, was that we were supposed to be a team. Perfectly suited, perfectly matched, perfectly perfect. In these final moments, I know what my last mission is. I need to make sure you two learn from my mistakes. Become stronger because of them. I chose well, Master Chief. I really did. Now, it's up to you.
The biggest mystery of this game was the Endless. Now, it is said that the Endless are more dangerous than the Flood ever was. The reason why they are more dangerous than the Flood is because they are immune to the Halo rings. I really like that we still don't know basically anything about the Endless, not even what they look like. I like this kind of mystery because then we can theorize and come up with creative ideas about what these things can look like and be. Honestly, after this story, I'm really excited to see where we are taken next. But with every game, the story is not all perfect. I do have some minor issues with the story itself. My main issue with this game is that we don't get enough from the villains. I think they did pretty well with Escharum, but they could have done more with the other villains. I really like the idea of the Hand of Atriox, as well as the Spartan Killers. They seemed very menacing, and I feel like we should have gotten more out of their characters. Tavares and Hyperius didn't get anything at all. They just got one mission dedicated to them and that was it. With some of the marketing being centered around these characters, I would have thought we would have gotten a lot more out of them. So I'm really disappointed we didn't get more of a story with them. Especially since it seemed like one of them actually killed Locke. Yega Ardumnai is an awesome and cool looking character, and it's such a disappointment we didn't get more out of him. He only had a few cutscenes and then it was just fighting him. That was all we got from him. In the beginning of the game, Escharum told Yega to watch every single movement the Master Chief made. What would have added more to the character would have been running into him every once in a while during the game. That would have made it way cooler, just to think that he could show up at any moment. There are a few other things that bothered me, and I'll tell you about them now. One major thing that I love about the open world is that you can go anywhere you want. This is what I expected when going into Halo Infinite. Obviously, I knew you wouldn't be able to explore the entire ring, because that would just be insane. I was excited though to see how big this map was when I first played this game. But unfortunately, you can't go everywhere you can see, which is really disappointing to me. The two places you can't go are the Silent Auditorium and the House of Reckoning. This is really disappointing to me, because the surrounding area of the House of Reckoning looks really cool, and it would have been really nice to explore that area. I know there are glitches to get there, but we should not have to rely on glitching the game in order to explore the entire map. I did have one issue with the game where whenever I jumped into a tank, it would just give me an option to use a grenade. But for some reason, whenever I pressed the button, it would never activate. It's happened to me many times before where I would try and throw a grenade into the tank, but it wouldn't let me, and I would just die because the turret was shooting me over and over again. I did try and get off the tank, but while doing it, for some reason, it wouldn't let me jump off the tank. So hopefully that'll be fixed soon. A new feature added to Halo Infinite is a day and night cycle. I really like the idea of having a day and night cycle in Halo, just because I feel like we didn't get enough nighttime missions in the past games. Unfortunately, I have to say I'm not really impressed with the nighttime. Nighttime feels more like daytime with the lights dimmed. It's still very bright. I would much rather have really dark nights, because running into the Banished at night should be scary. I thought going into this game that it was going to be really cool to fight the Banished at night, and that you could only identify them by lights or something. I did try to turn down the brightness, and it kind of worked, but all it really did was make everything look really weird. It's kind of hard to explain. Boss battles were finally done right in this game. Unlike Halo 5, where you fought the Warden 5 different times, in this game you actually have different boss battles that are unique in their own way. There are a total of 8 different boss battles, and each one of them is unique. Tremonius was the first boss battle of the game, and he had a Hydra as his main weapon. And he had a jetpack as well, which made it really hard to get to him when you needed to. Chakalock had active camouflage with an energy sword, so he was really fast and was hard to find. You had to use your threat detector a lot to find exactly where he was. Bassus was harder than the other two because he had a gravity hammer, and he was really fast and you were in a small space. The boss battle after that was Adjutant Resolution, and he wasn't that hard to beat. You just need to be patient and you'll beat him. You will have to fight him again, but it's basically the same thing as the first time you fight him. The next one is Hyperius and Tavares. This one is a bit more challenging just because you have to fight 2 of them together. And one of them is in a special chopper, and you can take advantage of that by just grappling his vehicle and just kicking him out of it. The other one's a bit of a chicken, so you can fight him easily. The next one is Yega Ardumnai. He is one of my favorite boss battles, because you were in the dark and he had active camouflage, and just hearing him run around made you feel uneasy, and it was just overall a really cool fight. The next one is Escharum. This one was definitely the longest boss battle out of all of them. It was very unique in the way it was structured, where you would take down his health a little bit, and then you'd take out a shield generator, and then you'd beat him up a little more, and then you'd repeat over and over again. Once you destroy all of his shields, then he brings out his gravity hammer, which can be really annoying to dodge. The last boss battle is the Harbinger. The Harbinger was surprisingly easy to defeat. I'm actually quite disappointed in that. This is the final boss battle of the game, so it should have been the longest and the hardest, but it was the exact opposite of that. It was the fastest and the easiest. To be fair, I did play on easy, but even then it should have been harder. The funny thing about this boss battle was the fact that it was harder to beat the Banished than it was to beat her. In the end, Halo Infinite's boss battles were infinitely better than Halo 5's. It felt like the old style of boss battles from older video games that I love. There is one thing about this game that really needs to be said, and that's the missing content. If you've been following the Halo Infinite timeline, you will know that Halo Infinite was originally supposed to release in December of 2020. It was delayed because the graphics weren't up to par, and they still needed to add more to the game. In the end, it was a really good decision that they did delay the game, because we got better graphics. But that's the only thing we got. Even with a delay, the launch was very limited. We only got the multiplayer and the campaign, that was it. For any other game, that would be great, but not for a Halo game. In all of the past Halos, we had Firefight, Forge, and a working multiplayer on launch. We still don't officially know when we're going to get the Firefight and Forge, which should have been released with the game, but it was not. I understand that they wanted to get this game out as soon as possible, but they should have delayed it a little longer just so then they could have released a full-length game, instead of just slapping a multiplayer and campaign together. I'm not really going to talk much about multiplayer, but I will say a few things just because multiplayer has been talked about so much. Obviously, I'm with everybody else when I say that the microtransactions are horrible and they should not be this bad. I understand that this is a free-to-play multiplayer, but asking us to pay $20 for one color is a bit much. I understand charging like maybe $5 for the cat ears. That makes sense. That's fine. But for a color, that's too much money. I won't say much about the other stuff because they are being changed. So there's no point in complaining about something that will be changed within a month. So there is customization, but it is very limited, which is unfortunate. Right now we're on Season 1, which is Heroes of Reach, and it's really cool, but it could have been better. We should have gotten more armor sets instead of XP boosts and challenge swaps. I did hear a rumor that the next Battle Pass won't be this bad, so hopefully they are correct. I also think that we should be allowed to use pieces of Halo Reach armor with the base armor we get in multiplayer. We should also be able to have some of the colors on the base armor on the Halo Reach armor. What I do really like about the Battle Pass though, is that we get armor sets for each Spartan from Halo Reach, and that's really cool. Otherwise, there's not much for me to talk about that hasn't already been said or explained better. I have full confidence that 343 will fix the game, but it's just going to take them a while. One final thing I'll say about it is to be nice to the developers. It's not really their fault that this game launched like this, so don't harass any of them. It's just not right. They're people too, just like us. So, this is the end of the Halo Infinite review. I overall loved Halo Infinite. It was much better than Halo 5, and I am happy that they went down this direction, and I hope they continue to go down this road, especially since the Endless seem like such an interesting enemy. Luckily, this game is on Game Pass. I'm not sure if it'll stay on Game Pass forever, but I say it's well worth the price. What did you think of Halo Infinite's story? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching, and see you in the next review.